In this tutorial, we're going to go over a few tips on how to shoot interviews. Now, there's lots of things to do, like call ahead of time, have good questions already planned, and lots of things like that. But we're only going to have time to go over a few things. First, we'll set up the camera. Look around the room and check for any windows. You never want to shoot an interview in front of an open window, especially on a bright sunny day. They'll end up being a silhouette.
And it will feel like they're in the witness protection program because the camera adjusts for the brightest light.
If you can't avoid shooting into a window, make sure you close the blinds. That way you can at least see them. Most of the time you can just switch sides. Now we'll want to frame up our shot. Make sure that the camera is about eye level with your interview. Use the rule of thirds and get in fairly close. The rule of thumb is to frame up the shot so that the bottom of the screen is at about mid-chest. Pay attention to your background, not just to avoid windows and bright lights. If you can get something in the background that maybe pertains to what they're talking about, it makes your video much more interesting. Don't ever put people up against a flat white wall. It just doesn't look good.
As you can see behind me, there's absolutely nothing. Looks interesting, right?
No. You should also make sure that the subject isn't right up against the background. This adds depth, helps with lighting, and if they're right up against the background, it can feel like they're trapped. Don't forget to mic them up, and also double check to make sure that the mic is in fact working. Never ever do an interview without a mic. To help make sure that they aren't looking directly at the camera, I sit down next to the camera and let them know that we're just going to have a conversation and they should be looking at me. If you as an interviewer make it more of a conversation, this shouldn't be much of a problem. However, if you stand behind the camera the whole time, it will make it very hard for them to feel comfortable and not look at the camera. At the bottom of the screen, we're probably going to put a graphic with their name and title. That graphic is called a lower third. You can just ask them to say their name and spell it, as well as say their title.
M-A-L-L-A-R-D.
And what would your title be? Hang glider?
Hang glider pilot.
Hang glider pilot. If you record it on camera, you'll have that information to write in your script later, and also a good reminder of how to pronounce their name properly. One thing to keep in mind when shooting multiple interviews is to alternate which side each interview is shot on. Doing this will help in the editing process. If you shoot every interview on the exact same side, when you go back to edit, it will be a lot harder to avoid what's called a jump cut. A jump cut is basically cutting between two shots that look very similar, and it makes the video feel kind of jarring, like the cuts at the beginning and end of this clip. I'll explain more in another tutorial. So those are just a few tips to help you improve your interviews. But there's other things like white balancing, manual focus, and using a light kit. There are other tutorials that will help you learn those skills. So go out, frame up your shots, get yourself a mic kit, and do some interviews.